What is up, everybody? Welcome to the MMA Engine and welcome to Probability for UFC Vegas 74. We got Kai Kara-France going against Amir Albazi. We have 13 fights on the card. We're going to be talking about 11 of the fights tonight. Me and Weezy were talking beforehand, and yeah, looks like the bookies are slacking a little bit this week. So we're missing, first of all, props on every book but Bet Online. At least Bet Online got everything out for the most part, but we're still missing, over under for the Castaneda Gaffarov fight, and then we're missing the over under for the Malarkey fight, which is fine. That fight just got announced like yesterday, but we're gonna talk through 11 fights, and yeah, like I said, all we have is Bet Online all to go off of. We don't have any 5 dimes, which is weird. Usually they're up there. We don't have any DraftKings, so should be interesting to talk about. Weezy, what is up? Are you looking forward to the show and looking forward to being back?
Yeah, looking forward to the show, man. We didn't do it a couple weeks ago. We've been working hard, Brady, and now we've got is it a 12 or a 13-week stretch? Because I see a bunch of people saying it's a 12-week stretch. I could swear it's 13 straight weeks of UFC action.
I thought 13.
Kai Kara-France versus Albazi.
Yeah, I thought 13. The next off week's like either late August or early September.
My God, yeah, I think it's like the first week of September. It's like once the summer is over, they're going to give us a week off. So, but this is what we do, man. We're here to break down fights. We're here to take a data-driven look at all of the time props on this card and see if the bookies have made any mistakes, overpriced or underpriced any lines seen that we can take advantage of here. So, the best cards are always the ones where we make money. We made some serious money on the last one, Brady. Let's keep it rolling this week.
Yes, sir. Let's do it. All right, but before we get started, if you guys can please leave a like, subscribe here to the MMA Engine, and I do want to shout out the chat as well. Thank you guys for stopping by here on a Tuesday. We got Dixon in the chat. We got Victor de Jesus, Mushroom, Propaholic, Silky. We got Subhuman. We got Jenna Marie in the chat as well. What is up, everybody? We got Dixon saying Brady Lynn. I like it. Hopefully, I can get the job done this Saturday. We shall see.
Grishin's a big dude, man. Don't let him hit you with that straight right.
Yeah, I know. It's gonna be a tough one, but I think I can pull it off. All right. Weezy, let's start. Speaking of Philippe Lins, let's get into this fight. We have Philippe Lins going against Maxime Grishin. We got the over-under set at 2.5 rounds. And we have my Wi-Fi not working, which is awesome. So we have the over 2.5 minus 155. We have the under 2.5 plus 125. The fight goes to decision minus 120. The fight doesn't go to decision minus 110. And I mean, I'm tempted on violence to an extent, but like we always say, Weezy, that would mean one of these guys would have to finish the fight. Yeah. And counting on either guy to really do that is not something I really want to do. What kind of scares me away is the fact that Philippe Lins was not able to finish a completely gassed out Marcin Prachnio. Like, I went back and watched that fight, and I think it was Mark Smith was like warning Prachnio to fight back like 6 minutes into the fight. It was like early second round, and Lins was still not able to finish him. So I would lean violence, but that would mean I would have to put money on this fight. It's not really something I want to do. Weezy, anything sticking out here?
So, like, the data kind of likes the overs if you're looking at fighter performance. If you're just looking at the benchmarks for the division, it likes the unders. So what that tells you is when you see the benchmarks being cheap, when we see these benchmarks in the green, it means that's the way the bookies are trying to shift you because they're getting action on the overs here. And the over 2.5 at 60.78% implied probability, we see that Lins has been over 2.5 rounds 2 out of 4 times, and Grishin it's been 3 out of 4 times. The only time Grishin wasn't over 2.5 rounds was when he fought a guy in Gadzhimurad Antigulov who has about 1.5 minutes of gas. So are we expecting Grishin to get a finish here against Lins? We haven't seen him get a finish yet at this level against anybody but Antigulov. And then Lins went out there and completely finished a washed Ovin St. Preux, showed him no respect, came out swinging like Yosemite Sam. But, it was crazy because he couldn't finish Prachnio. So I'm kind of leaning with the overs here, but they're overpriced, man. 18.81% overpriced according to the benchmark, 14.42 here on the fight goes to decision. it's a risky play. And this is just a fight, Brady, where I mean, my money, I don't want my money anywhere near this fight. I did the tape, I've looked at the numbers. I don't really have a read here. I don't know who wins this fight. I don't know if it's inside the distance or if it goes to decision. So the data's not telling us that much here. I have a very vague stylistic read on this fight. So this is just a stay away from me. If I had to bet it, I would bet the overs, but because I don't trust either of these guys to be able to get a finish. But I'm not laying juice betting an over in a 205-pound men's fight. These are big guys. They hit hard. So yeah, I'm just staying away from this one.
Yeah, I mean, usually they like to kick off the card with a good fight, right? Like an exciting fight to get the fans going, but they're kicking it off with the worst fight on the card. Like, what are they doing?
I don't know, man. I don't know. It's not a great card, dude. This card, the first iteration of it was pretty solid, but we've had a lot of fights that have changed here. Tim Elliott got a new opponent. Malarkey's gotten a new opponent. We had the Santos fight, Munoz fight moved a couple of weeks. Castaneda's got a new opponent. A lot of guys have gotten new opponents on this card, so it's a strange one.
Yeah, it is for sure. But let's move on to a much, much better fight, in my opinion. We have Luan Lacerda going against Damon Blackshear. We got the over-under set at 2.5 rounds, the over 2.5 minus 185, the under 2.5 plus 155. The fight goes to decision minus 155. The fight doesn't go to decision is plus 125. So for me, I'm on the Lacerda side, like ever so slightly. Like I don't like the line. And I'm kind of thinking him by decision just because Blackshear, he's fought some really good competition. He fought Farid Basharat. He fought Yusuf Zalal. He fought Pat Sabatini. And this guy has 5 losses. He's never been finished. He's a brown belt in BJJ. He's super tough. 5 losses, all by decision. So I'm kind of leaning Lacerda by decision, but both guys are really good finishers. I just don't know if either guy's going to finish here. I guess I could see finishing possibilities either way. It's just, I don't know. I think both guys are pretty durable. Anything sticking out here in terms of the numbers, Weezy?
Both of these guys are finishers by submission, Brady. And Blackshear is a great grappler. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt, like you said, never been finished. And he's been in there with better grapplers than Lacerda. And Lacerda is like a second or third degree black belt. Dude is legit. Like, he's been training with Jose Aldo at Nova União for years. But when Aldo was even in his prime, was one of the main training partners with Aldo to get him ready for some of his title fights. Dude's got really good jiu-jitsu, but Blackshear's not going to be out of his depth there. And so my stylistic read is that this fight does go to decision. But both of these guys are very dangerous. And I mean, I could see this fight finishing, and I like the plus money numbers, but the fact that we're only getting like 4% and 3% breaks here, when we see that, in their 3 combined UFC fights, we're not really seeing these guys, finish fights or get finished. And Lacerda's performance against Stamen was just a little bit weird for me. I would have expected to see him grappling a lot more. And I think what he wanted to do was come in and he wanted to show that his striking was UFC level. And it was just a tick below Stamen's for the whole fight, but he showed that he could be in there with a veteran who's been in there with really good competition, and Cody Stamen, guys like Song Yadong. And so he can handle that on the feet, but I feel like this fight's going to the ground, and these guys are going to be trading submission attempts, and it's going to be greasy for the over, and we're kind of laying a lot of juice. So it's another one where I'm just kind of feeling like I have to stay away here. I like this stylistically to go over, but I am not laying minus 185 for the over 2.5. I'm not laying minus 155 for the fight goes to decision, because I feel like these guys are going to fucking grapple, and I think they're both really dangerous, and they're probably both going to put each other into some bad spots. It's going to be a sweaty over, and I won't be laying that kind of juice on it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing it the exact same way. Probably going to be a couple submission attempts, a couple back takes here and there. And yeah, very, very sweaty. It's an over that probably hits, but at what cost, as I like to say. So going to be staying away from that one as well. This is the first next fight where I actually have an interest in maybe pulling the trigger on something. We got Jinh Yu Frey going against Elise Reed. We have the over under set at 2.5 rounds, the over 2.5 minus 260. The under 2.5 is now plus 200. So money coming in on that. The fight goes decision minus 275, and the fight doesn't go decision is plus 215. So both these fighters aren't like phenomenal finishers by any means. I mean, Elise Reed has a 33% finish rate, Jinh Yu Frey 27%, but these fighters get finished a ton. Jinh Yu Frey has been knocked out 3 times. She's been submitted once. She's now 38 years old, coming off of a knockout loss in the first round. And then Elise Reed, she's been finishing all 3 of her losses. So Jinh Yu Frey, she's a brown belt in BJJ. I still think Elise Reed does have a hole in her game. And maybe Frey is able to implement the wrestling here, get the fight down to the mat. And then on the feet, Elise Reed hits very hard. So this is an under that, I know it's a strawweight fight, but it's an under that I am somewhat considering, but it would be like a small play, nothing I want to go out there and just completely smash. But I'm leaning under on this one and the fight doesn't go. Weezy, what's sticking out to you here?
Yeah, well, if you want to lay minus 275 on the fight goes or minus 300 on the over 2.5, God, the data just hates it. It's a negative trifecta bet. It's extremely overpriced at these levels, not just when you compare the benchmarks for the division to the implied probability of the betting line, but also when you compare the fighter performances. Elise Reed has only been to decision in 2 of her 5 UFC fights, and for Jinh Yu Frey, it's 4 out of 6. So only 54% of their combined UFC fights, and there's 11 of them at this point, have went to decision. And you're paying 73%. So the fight doesn't go to decision at plus 215 is actually a trifecta bet. This prop template is telling us that this is an underpriced bet. When we see green here, and here, and we're also seeing it here and here as well on the outside the UFC experience, it's a bet that we probably should be making. At plus 215, we're only paying 31.75% on the implied probability. But 45% of their combined UFC fights have finished inside the distance. And that is better than what the divisional benchmark is as well. So we're getting a 13.71% break when we compare that 45% number to this 31.75% number here on the line, and a 13.39% break. So I think that this is the first bettable line on this card that we've looked at so far, Brady, because I think the stylistic read also matches up, because I think Jinh Yu Frey could absolutely get a submission, and I think that Elise Reed could absolutely get a knockout here. So plus 215, fight doesn't go to decision. I don't think we need to go running to the window at this price, because it might be plus 225 or plus 230, plus 240 someplace else. But I'm going to be keeping an eye on this one.
Yep, it's one that I'm considering for sure. Like I said, maybe like a small play on it though, but yeah, I mean, I think Reed can knock her out, and I think Reed's ground game is still pretty bad. So I think Frey could submit her potentially as well. I like
Absolutely, I agree with that.
All right, so that is the first spot that really stuck out to me. Let's move on to the next. Isn't it crazy that the first violent spot we like is a strawweight fight?
Yeah, no, women's strawweight fight where you wouldn't expect that Reed or Frey is going to finish their morning banana. So I mean, but it's that kind of fight. They're both pretty weak in certain areas, and they could each finish each other in that area.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to another violent fight. We got Daniel Santos going against Johnny Munoz Jr. We got the over-under set at 2.5, the over 2.5 plus 145, the under 2.5 minus 175. The fight goes plus 175. The fight doesn't go is minus 215. And I bet the under 2.5. Last time these guys were supposed to fight at plus money, and now it's not even close to plus money. So very frustrating there. And at minus 175, I mean, there's just no point at this point. I think it's a violent fight. I think there's paths for either guy to finish, whether it's a Johnny Munoz Jr. submission or whether it's a Daniel Santos finish by knockout at some point in this fight. So, yeah, I think it finishes. I just don't like the price tag whatsoever. Weezy, what's sticking out to you here?
Yeah, what sticks out to me here is that I would like to make an over bet or even potentially like to make a fight goes to decision bet here, but my God, would it be terrifying. And the terrifying part about it is Santos's pressure. It's so relentless. He just refuses to fuck off. He never takes a backward step. So unless Munoz is able to hold on to this guy and hug him, I don't think that there's any chance that it goes over. However, the other side of that, Brady, is that I don't think Munoz is going to be willing to deal with Santos's pressure. I think you'd have to be crazy to deal with that pressure unless you could put on a defensive striking masterclass like Julio Arce did against him. But that's not Munoz's game. He's not a striker at that level, even close to Julio Arce's level. So what I think the game plan for Munoz is going to be is that he's going to grapple his ass off for the full 15 minutes. And if he does that, this fight could absolutely go to decision. And I don't see another path for Munoz here, because if he just tries to stand with this dude, he's gonna get his back put up against the fence. He's gonna get cornered, and he's gonna get his head punted into the 15th row here. So I like the overs. Will I be sweating? Yes. Will my butthole be puckered incredibly tight? Yes. But do I think Munoz can hug this dude for 12 and a half minutes? I think he can. And check it out, Brady. 40.82% implied probability on this line. The over 2.5 happens 57.5% of the time in the bantamweight division. Santos, one of his 2 fights has went to decision. Munoz, 2 of his 4 fights have went to decision. So it's their fights are going to decision 50% of the time. We're only paying 40% on the line. It's a plus money number. And we're only 7.5% in the red here when we compare their 50% over 2.5 rate to the 57% over 2.5 rate. Don't get me wrong, you guys. If Santos gets his way, if he's able to keep this fight at distance striking range and continue pressuring Munoz, he breaks him probably in the second round or early third. But if Munoz grapples relentlessly, I think that this fight could cruise over 2.5 rounds and we'd be cashing a plus 145 ticket. What do you think, dude?
I can't do it. But if that's your read, I mean, I don't know. I think Munoz can absolutely take him down. I just struggle seeing Munoz hold him down, because Santos' takedown defense isn't good, but has really good scrambling and can work his way back up. But if it does turn out and he's able to hold down Santos, absolutely this goes over. It's just I don't know if it does. And when it is on the feet, Dino Santos fights like he's on crack. So I don't.
I know.
I don't know. It would be a very sweaty over.
But here's the thing, Brady. Here's the thing. Look at that debut against Manus for Munoz. He didn't get any takedowns. He got a takedown early in the first round when they were both dry and not tired. He held onto him for the second round, for the third round, just held him against the fence. And I think that that's kind of like the route that he's going to have to take here, because every minute that he's not holding him against the fence, trying to take him down or on top or even on the bottom, he's going to be in trouble, because this dude's going to be walking him down like Michael Myers with a machete. And every second that this thing is on the feet, Munoz is going to be in trouble. So I think he's going to be desperately grappling here. And if I'm right about that, I think that plus 145 over 2.5 cashes at a higher rate than 40.82%.
Yeah, not only that, if you're right about that plus 185 on Munoz cashes too.
Potentially. But, he might hold him against the cage for 12 out of the 15 minutes and lose the other striking exchanges and just lose the fight on the scorecards because he's not doing any damage. So that's one of the ways that I'm looking at this fight, is that I think Munoz is going to be forced to fight a game plan that actually benefits him, which is going to be good. So, I'm hesitant about laying the juice on the Santos money line, and I'm hesitant about laying the juice on the unders here, because it just opened at so much better of a price that now it's juice to the tits here.
Yeah, I mean, they're basically telling us to F off if we liked violence there. But
yeah, and that's something we're used to being told by BetOnline these days.
Oh yes,
yeah.
Well, Weezy, let's move on to this next fight we got in Andre Arlovski going against Dontel Mays. I was doing my breakdown today, and I almost stopped the video talking like halfway through this breakdown. I almost like stopped the video and just gave up because I just am at a loss for words on this matchup as a whole. But anyway, we have Dontel Mays under Arlovski, the over 2.5 minus 170. The under 2.5 plus 140. The fight goes minus 145. The fight doesn't go plus 115. I think this goes over at a very high clip. Under Arlovski's not finishing anybody ever again. The last finish he has was back in like 2016, and he's fought so many times since then. So I completely eliminate an Andre Arlovski finish. If there's a finish in this fight, it does come from Dontel Mays. And I guess that could potentially happen. Arlovski's 44 years old. I just don't think it's all that likely. So, yeah, I think this does go over, but it's just like the first fight where I just don't want to put any money on this fight whatsoever. This fight is already taking years off my life, and it hasn't even happened yet. But, I think it goes over. A finish in this fight would be fairly surprising.
Yeah, I love the over in this fight, Brady. I don't think Dontel Mays is really finishing anybody with a pulse in the UFC. And I mean, I don't even know if Arlovski is finishing somebody without a pulse. You know what I'm saying? I think he might like kind of stay on the outside and touch him with a jab for 3 rounds and never knock him down, even though the person isn't dead. Like you could wheel somebody in there on a gurney. And Arlovski would still just outpoint them over 15 minutes. So I really do like the over 2.5 rounds here. But here's the other side of that, Brady. Like, what if Andre Arlovski literally just completely washed, and the first time Mays gets a takedown, he actually just gets his arm underneath the neck and finishes the fight? Because it's certainly fucking possible. Both times that we've seen Andre Arlovski taken down in the last like 5 years, and it's only happened twice. Once against Tom Aspinall and once against Marco Sergio de Lima. The fight was over like 5 seconds after the takedown both times. This guy is basically telling people, look, I'll go in there and I'll box with you for 15 minutes. If you fuckers try anything else, I'm just quitting. You know, and we've seen that happen twice. So I'm worried because I kind of feel like Mays should know that he needs to get this fight to the ground in order to win it. And it shouldn't be that hard for him. So, yeah, maybe he could get a finish. I'm looking to play the over 170, the over 2.5 Brady at minus 170. I'm looking to maybe even parlay it this week. That would be, I think, a good leg for our probability parlay this week. Is the over 2.5 rounds. We are overpaying 20% when we compare that 63% price tag to the 42% benchmark for the division, Brady. But look, we got a 28 fight sample size between Mays and Arlovski. 75% of those 28 fights are going over 2.5 rounds. So that means we're getting a 12% break when we compare this massive 28 fight sample size to the implied probability of the line. So that's the bet. That's the bet we're making here. If you're making a bet on this fight, it's the over 2.5 rounds at minus 170. I think it's parlayable. I think it's plus EV there. And I think it's a good straight bet that you can make a big bet on or just go 1.7 units to win one.
Yep. I won't be betting on it, but it makes a ton of sense. A finish would shock me. But that point you brought up really scares me, though. Like, if Mays does get a takedown, he's probably going to insta-tap Arlovski. Like, Mays is a purple belt for what it's worth. So that could be terrifying. But other than that, it's probably a point-fighting fight for the most part.
Purple belt, did you say? Is that the BJJ belt, or is that the color of the cough syrup that he drinks before he goes in there and looks slow as shit every time that he fights?
Yeah, apparently he's a purple belt.
Okay. Well, I'll take your word for it, Brady, because I know that you're a true professional who does your research. It just doesn't look like it.
And I remember that because people were betting the Mays submission prop against Hamdi at like plus 2,000.
This guy got leg locked by a kickboxer.
Yeah.
Oh, God. How do you get heel hooked by a guy who's never put on a gi in his life? How the hell does that happen? So yeah, man, this is a wild one. I mean, this is normally the kind of bet, Brady, I would actually consider max betting. I would consider putting 5 units on the over 2.5 rounds here, but that thing that I brought up about maybe Mays insta-tapping Arlovski if it gets to the ground really has me worried.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but now that you got me thinking, I mean, it's definitely a scenario that's on the table, man. Like, De Lima got him down. Well, he knocked him down, got on the neck, and it wasn't even under the chin, I don't believe. And then same thing with Aspinall.
I don't think Aspinall's was either, man. It was.
I don't think so, man.
So, like, as soon as it got to the ground, it was like he's got Bob Sapp's rule, where like, hey, I'm giving you 60 seconds, and then I'm tapping. And for Arlovski, it's like, hey, I'll box until somebody takes me down. Somebody takes me down, I'm fucking quitting. I'm 44 years old. I don't need this shit.
Yep. So we shall see. We shall see. Probaholics and May sub. It's plus 750, but I think on FanDuel it'll be much better. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Weezy, let's move on to the next fight. We have. This is the Castaneda. Let me refresh and see if
I'm gonna refresh and see if we got anything here.
But I doubt it.
Nope, still nothing. Still nothing.
And then, so we can move on to, I think the next fight is the Dos Santos fight, right?
Yeah, for Castaneda Gafarov, I kind of like the over, Brady. If we just take a look at the stats that I have here, Gafarov has never been finished, right? 22 professional fights, 4 losses, never been finished, never been knocked out. Dude's been in there with John Lineker. And then we look at Castaneda, 6 professional losses. He's been knocked out twice. And Gafarov does have some knockout power. He's got a nasty overhand right. But Gafarov's durable. Castaneda's fairly durable too. And it's not like we did see Santos knock out Castaneda, but like that was an incredible comeback and he broke him with the pressure. So if Gafarov's not going to get pressured like that, and Gafarov's not going to pressure Castaneda like that on the feet either. So I kind of like the overs here, but we have no idea where this thing is going to open, so we can't really talk about it that much.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Maybe they'll open it by fight time.
Yeah. Bet online. We open lines by fight time. They're always first to market. Respect to Bet online. I mean, their props are dog shit most of the time, but they're always first to market. When probability airs on Monday, we can count on Bet online having their markets up, so we appreciate them.
We absolutely appreciate it, even though their lines are like not bettable nowadays, but we appreciate them being first for sure.
Yes, because somebody's got to make a market in these over-under props, and I don't think anybody really wants to be first to market, but whoever's got to do it's got to have big balls. They got to put it out there, and Bet Online is the first one to do it every week. So respect.
Respect. All right, Weezy, we'll move on to the next fight then, where we do have some lines. We got Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos going against Abu Bakar Nurmagomedov. The over-under sit at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 minus 210. The under 2.5 plus 170. The fight goes decision minus 180, and the fight doesn't go decision is plus 150. So it's one of those fights where if you like Nurmagomedov, you probably like this fight to go the distance. And if you like Dos Santos, you probably like this fight to finish. What stuck out to me was Nurmagomedov has been finished in all 3 of his losses, 1 by knockout, 2 by sub. Dos Santos, very good finisher on the feet, on the mat, whatever it may be. So it really comes down to your stylistical read. And I am going with the Dos Santos side, so I guess I would lean with the under, but not something I'm extremely passionate about. Anything sticking out here, Weezy?
Yeah, these unders, right? We got them underpriced by 10% when we compare that 40% price to the 50% benchmark. We got a 37% price here on the under 2.5, comparing it to a 45% benchmark. But the problem is that we've got a 15-fight sample size, and these guys aren't really getting the job done in terms of finishing fights. We've seen Abu get finished by David Zawada via triangle, on the ground. And we've seen Zaleski get a couple of finishes. We've seen him get robbed out of a finish by what's his name, Kisiev against Benoit Saint Denis. But these guys aren't savage finishers, either one of them at the UFC level. If we go over here, we can see that Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos has finished 4 of his 9 wins, and he's been finished in 1 of his 3 losses, but Abu hasn't finished either of his 2 wins here. So I do tend to lean towards the over here. I kind of like Abu to win this fight. I think that while this is on the feet, it's going to be very close. But Abu is a really good minute winner wherever the fight goes. When he's on the feet, he's showing 72% distance striking defense, and he's got a really nice jab that he uses to maintain distance and win minutes. And his wrestling is solid, man. He gets his takedowns at like 30%, but every time Abu gets a takedown, he's controlling his opponent on the mat for at least a minute or 2. So he's got very impressive abilities to be able to win minutes on the ground and at distance striking range here. And Zaleski does swing hard, and he's difficult to deal with at range with that capoeira style. You never know when he's going to spin. You never know which way he's going to spin. There are a bunch of like crazy fucking techniques that this guy has the ability to throw and throw with power. And it's not just those crazy kicks. He just throws a nasty 1-2 with that right hand coming straight down the pipe with a lot of power on it. So I could see him potentially getting knocked out. Shit, I could even see Abu getting a knockout. So even though I favor this thing to go over, and we get a 73% combined rate of these guys going over 2.5 rounds in 15 combined fights, and this line is only 67.74%, I'm not laying minus 210 on that. What I'd rather do is, instead of betting an over 2.5 where a fight goes, I'd rather just bet Abu Bakar Nurmagomedov to win by decision here, because that's my stylistic read on the fight, is that he's the better minute winner wherever it goes, and if it goes the full 15, he's going to find a way to win 2 out of these 3 rounds. But the time props just don't have me that interested. I need more plus money on those violence lines in order to bet that.
Yeah, same. I was looking at Dos Santos finish only, but of course it's a crap price. It's minus like 260.
Oh yeah, no thanks. That's no good.
And then Nurmagomedov by decisions plus 120, and he's minus 110.
I know. It's just a fuck you. I mean, seriously, they're basically saying it's like 90% of his win condition, and he's finished more than half of his wins. So it's just trash. We'll see where some of the books that have better props open that one.
Yeah, that is very trash. My goodness. All right, Weezy. So we have the we're not gonna touch on the Malarkey fight. He's taken on some newcomer, and I guarantee you they're gonna juice the under on that. I guess I can refresh to see if there's anything, and no, there's not. So okay. I'm gonna skip it, or do you have any thoughts on it?
For Malarkey against so I researched this fight. What the hell is the Naimov? Okay. Yeah, I do think that this one goes over. I'm not a huge believer in Malarkey's finishing ability. Naimov's a good striker, but I kind of feel like because he's such a good striker that Malarkey's going to kind of try to grind him out a little bit up against the cage, maybe get some takedowns. I think that's where we've seen people win minutes against Naimov in the past. And I'm not a big fan of Naimov's cardio either.
No, not at all.
He really had a rough time in his Contender Series fight, really gassed out and had very little output after round 1. But on the regional scene, you see him in a 5-round title fight where he lost by 1 round, where the cardio looked good for 5 rounds. So it could have just been an adrenaline dump being on DWCS, having the biggest fight of his life there. And he had a big first round. So I tend to think that this one goes over, Brady, but we don't know where the line is going to open. We'll see what happens here, but maybe because Malarkey's such a big favorite, minus 500, and shout out to our guy Lou Betya. In this economy, minus 500, I'm paying $4.50 a gallon for gas here in Chicago, Brady. How the hell am I going to go out there and pay minus 500 for Jamie fucking Malarkey? I can't afford that. I can't afford that. Who do I look like, Lorenzo de Medici over here?
I mean, it's, he's one of those guys where you never think you'd see him at minus 500 against just anybody ever.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, Malarkey at minus 500 against anybody is crazy.
Yeah, it definitely is. But yeah, we'll have to see. But yeah, minus 500. I thought that was pretty funny.
Me too. Me too, dude.
All right, so no line for that yet. Maybe we'll get him by fight time. We have the next fight. We have Karina Silva going against Ketlin Souza. We got the over/under set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 minus 120. The under 2.5 is minus 110. The fight goes decision plus 105. The fight doesn't go decision is minus 135. And I'm taking a very, very hard look at that under or that fight doesn't go decision because it is a Karina Silva fight. She has a 100% finish rate, never won by decision, and she has only been to decision once in her entire career. So 19 fights, 18 of them finishing inside the distance. And Souza actually a solid finisher as well. The only problem is a lot of her finishes just came early, and as of late, she hasn't really been the best finisher in the world, but still overall, she has a 70% finish rate, and she's been finishing all of her losses. She got hurt to the body. She got hurt to the legs, I think, in a fight, and then she's also been submitted. So, yeah, I think there's paths to victory for both fighters to finish, whether it's a Silva knockout on the feet, a Silva club and sub, maybe Silva takes her down and subs are there, or if Silva does get tired, this fight goes on, maybe Souza gets out of there late. So I think this is it's your land shock, but it's a Karina Silva under that I think is a good look this week. Weezy, what do you think here?
Yeah, see, I can see this going either way stylistically, right, Brady? Because I kind of feel like if Souza gets her way in this fight, she can dance, she can move. We can see her moving laterally. She's going to be smaller, she's going to be faster than Karina, so I could see her kind of moving around and pot shotting and frustrating Karina Silva because Silva's doesn't have like these crazy good takedowns. And she's not really that high volume, and she's certainly not accurate on the feet. Check this out, Brady. These stats, distance striking numbers, 19% distance striking accuracy for Karina Silva in her UFC debut. And it doesn't get any better when you go back and you watch her fight the very handsome Yan Ki-hee on Dana White's Contender Series. Her accuracy there was dog shit as well. And then look at this. She makes Jordan Wright look like one of the best defensive athletes that we have in the UFC here with a 27% distance striking defense. That's putrid. So I kind of feel like stylistically there's definitely a path for Souza to kind of dance around, move laterally, use her conditioning and her speed and her pot shotting to kind of win a decision here. But Karina Silva's never won a decision. So that's why I kind of see Ketlin maybe taking that path and maybe making this, not engaging that much. But Karina Silva does have a 100% finish rate. She does have big power on the feet, and she's very opportunistic. She waits for that one big shot, or she waits for that one sloppy takedown entry where she'll go for a guillotine or try to lock up an armbar or a triangle or something. And she's got a lot of different finishes, Karina Silva. She's got an armbar. She's got a triangle. She's got a darce. She's got a heel hook. She's definitely finished people in a number of different ways. So she's very dangerous, very opportunistic, very powerful. And I would be a little bit worried about Silva's conditioning, seeing as we've never seen her win a decision because she's so reliant on the finish, Brady, that we could potentially see a third round finish from Ketlin Souza here if Silva kind of like empties the tank trying to get a finish. So I think that when I'm looking at the numbers here, the numbers are telling me bet that under 2.5 or bet that fight doesn't go. But when I'm looking at it stylistically and I'm kind of trying to figure how Ketlin Souza wins this fight, I could see it going over as well. So I feel like I might stay away from this one, but I think if I had to make an official pick, Brady, I would pick the fight doesn't go to decision at minus 135.
Yeah, I mean, they have the craziest finish numbers on the entire card. 100% finish rate for Silva, Souza 70%, and then it's their losses that sticks out. I think 6 out of 7.
6 out of 7 losses inside the distance, yeah. So it's terrifying to bet an over.
Yeah. Yep, and Silva's a killer be killed fighter as well. So, yeah, it's something I'm taking a very, very hard look at. Kind of waiting to see what everybody else opens it up at. But yeah, minus 135 I think is more than fair. I smashed the Cachoeira Silva under. Forget what that was at though. I think it was a lot
Dude,
more.
it was like minus 155. I can't believe where it was. It was at 2.5 rounds, and I was like, I'm waiting for something to parlay this with that could, get it down to like almost even money. You could smash it for like 5 units. I love that bet. I'm so angry that fight didn't take place. That was going to be such a violent fight.
I know that was my biggest bet of the card, and I think like a card later, I had like the under in like the Levy fight, and that got
Yeah,
canceled.
I had that too. Yeah, and the Manel Kopp fight like 3 weeks before that, where Alex Perez didn't show up and pulled out on fight day. It's like I've had so many great bets canceled. They all 100% would have cashed. I should be up so many more units this year.
I agree. I totally agree. But we will keep moving on. We have a couple more fights left. We have Tim Elliott going against Victor Altamirano. The over 2.5 rounds, my goodness, minus 270. The under 2.5 plus 210. The fight goes minus 250. The fight doesn't go is plus 195. Stylistically, I absolutely think this goes over, but Tim Elliott's out there talking crazy this week. It seems like he's talking about how he's going to go in there and do something crazy. He's going to do something new. He's calling for the knockout. I don't know if Tim Elliott's in the right headspace for this fight, man. I mean, it's a lot of narrative stuff, but it's a weird one here. Anything sticking out?
Yeah, well, Tim Elliott's always been fucking weird, dude.
That is true.
I mean, let's face it. I mean, like, you could just look at the way that dude fights and be like, there's a good chance he's on crystal meth 50% of the time, And I'm not accusing him of that. Obviously, he wouldn't be able to fight at this level if he was doing that. But that's the style, right? And he does gas out later on in fights, Brady. And why wouldn't he? When you're doing that much unnecessary action, he's switching stances constantly. He's feinting, throwing his hands all over the place, throws kicks with both legs, punches with both legs. I mean, like, he never throws the same strike twice, it seems like. And he's just an absolute wild man. It's something that I kind of feel like you don't know what a Tim Elliott fight's going to look like as his opponent until you actually get in there with him and experience what it's like to be in there with somebody that fights at that pace and with that kind of an unorthodox rhythm to everything that he does. Tim Elliott saying, that he's going to go out there and do something wild is like saying, I'm going to wake up the next day and breathe. I mean, of course he's going to do something wild. He's never looked normal in his entire UFC career. So, and then there was obviously the situation where, and like, dude, Dan Levy posted it, I think, on Twitter yesterday or the day before, Brady, where it was like, he's like, this is one of the coldest pictures ever. And it's James Krause with this big shit-eating grin on his face doing the selfie pic with Tim Elliott, Gina Mazzani, and Kevin Kroom, the homewrecker. And they're all just smiling. Kevin's probably got his hand on Gina's ass, below the, it's just a complete mess. And then you're asking yourself, like, he hasn't fought in almost a year now, Tim Elliott. He's got a divorce coming up with Gina. She's fucking the best man, at their wedding, for God's sake, Brady. I mean, this is like an episode of the Jerry Springer show. So, am I laying minus 270 on the over 2.5? No chance in hell. And even though, that's 73%, they're only going over 2.5 rounds 64% of the time. So it's overpriced. If anything, I'd take a shot on that under 2.5. I mean, anything can happen in this fight. Tim Elliott's fights have went under 2.5 rounds 5 out of 14 times. That's more than a third of the time. And we're paying only 32% on this. I think I would bet the under before I would bet the over here. Much more plus money. I don't think either of these guys is all that predictable. So it could be a wild fucking fight.
Yeah, I think I would lean towards the under, but it would just be like a narrative-based play, I think, for that under.
Yeah, I don't think I can really count on Altamirano or Elliott to finish anybody at this level.
Unless it's Daniel De Silva.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and that's maybe if Elliott comes out with some Daniel De Silva like energy, maybe then this fight does end in the first or second round. But outside of that, man, it probably does go over. But I am not laying minus 250 or minus 270.
Yeah, that is a lot to pay there. All right, 3 fights left. We have Jim Miller going against Jared Gordon. Kind of a weird one here. We have the over-under set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 minus 145. The under 2.5 is plus 115. The fight goes minus 110. The fight doesn't go is minus 120, which is kind of weird because Jared Gordon is like a decent-sized favorite, and Jared Gordon only has one finish in his UFC career, and that was like 8 years ago. And Jim Miller, yeah, he's 39 years old, but he's super tough. He has I think he has like 17 losses and only 5 of them coming inside the distance across his 52-year or 52 fight career. So I kind of see it as Gordon decision or Jim Miller by finish here. Weezy, what is sticking out to you on this one?
Yeah, I think that it's a very dangerous fight to play because Jared Gordon is coming off of a knockout against Bobby Green. And a lot of people don't consider that a knockout because it was called a no contest, but he got headbutted. He got dropped to the ground because of that headbutt. And then Green got in his guard and landed a nasty ground pound that knocked him out cold. So I'd be worried that if I bet the overs here, which is my stylistic read on this fight, I think it goes over. But anytime you're betting an over in a Jared Gordon fight, you know that you could wind up seeing this dude sleeping at any point during the fight. It's been knocked out 5 times, Brady. I think 4 times officially, but the Green time, it makes it 5. So stylistically, it's a really difficult fight to call. And then when you look at the numbers here, Brady, I mean, like these lines are priced perfectly. We get just a little bit of a discount here on the fight goes at 2.71% overpriced compared to 4.22% overpriced for the fight doesn't go. The under 2.5 priced perfectly according to the benchmark. The over 2.5 overpriced just by like about 5%. And then you look at these numbers, like 56.41% of their fights go over 2.5 rounds. You're paying 59. 48% here, you're paying 52%. 43%, you're paying 46%, and 51% here, and you're paying 54%. So all of these lines, this one, and this one, are all overpriced by between 2 and 4%, Brady. So the data tells us nothing, and the stylistic read leaves us with a lot of doubt as to Jared Gordon's chin. So I'm not touching this. I don't feel like I'm getting an edge anywhere in this fight.
Yeah, I mean, I might sprinkle like Miller inside the distance or Miller KO, but that's about it. The total, I don't know. I just don't want anything to do with it because I don't really see Gordon finishing Miller unless like Miller completely gasses out. But if Miller wins, it's going to be a finish. Gordon's been finished, like you said, 5 times, 4 by knockout, 1 by sub, and then he also got knocked out by Bobby Green, which is a no contest as well. So he's been finished a lot in his career, and Jim Miller is still pretty dangerous.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, maybe a Miller by KO, if we could get it at a nice fat line, that could be interesting because, Gordon's just susceptible to that happening. But as far as the time props go, we're not getting an edge anywhere. These bookies have got it perfectly priced.
Yep, agreed. I will not be touching those. All right, 2 fights left. Co-main event. We have another fighter with a 100% finish rate. This much more impressive. Daniel Pineda going against Alex Caceres. This over-under set at 1.5 rounds. The over 1.5 minus 180. The under 1.5 plus 150. Money just came in on that. The fight goes to decision plus 195. The fight doesn't go to decision minus 250. Daniel Pineda, just like Karina Silva, is a killer be killed fighter. This guy has 42 fights, even more fights than that, but a lot of them are no contest, a 100% finish rate, and he's also been finished 9 times in his career. So killer be killed. Alex Caceres, a solid finisher, 55% finish rate. He's been finished 8 times in his career. So both these guys have been finished a ton. 17 combined finish losses. I see why they're completely just juicing this fight doesn't go up to minus 250 here. Weezy, anything sticking out here to you?
Yeah, so it's a Pineda fight. So you're automatically already thinking it's going to finish inside the distance. Pineda has had 2 fights at the UFC level. See the scorecards. Caceres is at 11. See the scorecards. But we're getting a plus 160 here on the under 1.5. Overpriced by about 11.26% according to the benchmark. But it's a Pineda fight. And 5 of his 7 fights have not started round 3. 3 of his 7 fights have finished under 1.5 rounds. But he's a very difficult guy to deal with because when you're on the feet, and I worry about this for Caceres, Pineda's low leg kicks are just absolutely horrific to deal with. He really goes after his opponent's calves. And when you're a traditional martial arts style, you're going to have that front leg out in front. And you're going to have weight on it. And you're going to have that sideways stance. And it makes that front leg just a target for somebody to swing, like Pineda, to swing absolute bombs at. And when he does that, when Pineda goes after your calf and goes after you with massive shots, it's to force you to grapple. And then once you're grappling with this guy, his submission game is ridiculous. So stylistically, Brady, I don't see a lot of finishing equity for Caceres early here. But if this winds up becoming just a crazy first round, we could see Caceres getting a second round finish by submission over Pineda if Pineda gasses out. And you also have to worry about Pineda being on the gas. I mean, obviously the guy's already been caught at a very late stage of life doing performance-enhancing drugs. So, who's to say he won't do it again? 26% of their combined UFC fights have went under 1.5 rounds. But let's remember that 4 out of 20 is 20%, but 3 out of 7 is like 43%. And if we look at it through that lens, that this is a Pineda fight, he's going to force a fight, that I think that the under 1.5 at plus 160, or if we could get this under 2.5 rounds at minus 150-ish, minus 170, I think it could be a very interesting play, but it's probably going to be a lot pricier than that. But I do kind of like this under 1.5 rounds for this fight.
Yeah, I'm curious to see where they put the 2.5, because I think I would rather get that extra round because, Caceres, I think if he wins, it's going to be late second, third, and the Pineda, it's probably in the first or first round and a half. So,
and I got to point this out, Brady. I got to point this out. The over 1.5 rounds is actually a trifecta bet here on the template. Minus 200, 6% underpriced when you compare the 2/3 probability to the 72.8% benchmark. 74% of their fights have went over 1.5 rounds at the UFC level. That's a 7.41% break. And they're going over 1.5 rounds, 1.28% more than what the division does. So it is a trifecta bet. But my God, can you imagine betting, like an over 1.5 at minus 200 in a Pineda fight? I mean, even though the data is telling us that it could potentially even be a parlay piece, that would make me very nervous.
Yeah, definitely. And it's minus 180 now, actually. So it's even
wow.
Yeah.
Minus 180. Let's type that into the template. What do they got the under at, Ben?
The under is plus 150.
Yeah, so it's even bigger of a trifecta bet now at minus 180 here.
Sweaty.
Very sweaty. Very sweaty. So we'll see.
Yep, we shall see. I'm going to play some type of violence. I just don't know what I'm doing yet. Whether it be an under 2.5, maybe a fight won't start round 3, something along those lines. But I'll be playing violence for sure. I always do in Dano Pineda fights, and it's worked out really well. So I'm going to keep doing it. All right, Weezy, we have the main event. Before we get into it, if you guys have not already, be sure to smash the like button, subscribe here to the MMA Engine. Ready to talk about this one. We got a 5-round fight, Amir Albazi, Kai Kara France. The over-under is set at 3.5 rounds. The over 3.5 minus 160. The under 3.5 plus 130. And the fight goes to decision plus 140. The fight doesn't go to decision is now minus 170. It opened up minus 140. So money coming in on violence, and I think that makes a lot of sense. Kai Kara France obviously has a ton of power. Amir Albazi has a ton of power. And then Amir Albazi has a very good submission game as well. Albazi never been finished, but Kai Kara France has been finished 6 times in his career. I would lean violence here, but it's getting completely smashed. Weezy, what is sticking out to you on this one?
Yeah, the violence is moving quite a bit here. We've got 22 flyweight fights since 2013 that have been scheduled for 5 rounds. 11 of them have went under 3.5 rounds, so that's 50%. And we're only paying 43% on the under 3.5 at plus money, a plus 130. And I think that's interesting because, as we could see here, Amir Albazi has never been 5 rounds in his career, never at the UFC level, and never prior to the UFC as well. Kai Kara-France went 5 rounds twice outside the UFC and once in it. So Kai's going to be the more experienced guy, probably will be the athlete that's a little more equipped to deal with the 5-round fight here. But we don't really have much in the way of numbers because this is a 5-round fight. But when we look at the 3-round numbers, right? Kai Kara-France has finished inside the distance 3 of 9 times, and for Albazi, it's 3 of 4. So it's 46% of their 3-round fights are finishing inside the distance. But, we're paying 63% for the 5-round one. So I think that I would rather play the plus 130. We're getting a better number here, 6.52% underpriced, compared to only 0.68% underpriced now for the fight doesn't go at minus 170. But, the numbers here don't mean much because we've only got one total fight for these two guys scheduled for 5 rounds at the UFC level. So we're missing some information. How does Albazi look in a 5-round fight? How does Kai Kara-France look in a 5-round fight? Because it looks, by the looks of it, the one fight that he did have scheduled didn't even get to round 4.
Yeah.
So, I think I'd be leaning the under 3.5 rounds here. That'd probably be the way that I would play this. Count on Kai Kara-France's power or Albazi's power or Albazi's submission game.
Yep, that's where I'm leaning as well. That one I did have circled. I was hoping to get maybe a better price on the fight doesn't go in general, but it doesn't look like that's happening, and it's only getting worse as we speak. So, yeah, still plus money, plus 130. And where did that open up at? Open plus 135. So, yeah, not bad. Not bad, plus 130. I might be taking a look at that.
Yeah, I think that's still a pretty good look there. The data doesn't tell us that much, but against the benchmark, it's a solid play.
Sounds good to me. All right. What we're going to do now is try to find a PP here. Not a ton of parlay pieces sticking out, honestly, this week. But let's see if we can find something. Weezy, anything sticking out to you?
Well, what about that Caceres Pineda fight doesn't go to decision?
That seems safe. Yes. Plus minus 250, right?
Yeah, minus 250, but we don't hate that. I mean, even though the numbers don't love it, it's a Pineda fight, So the chances that this thing sees the scorecard, he's had 2 of them see the scorecard out of like 40 professional fights. So 95% chance. I think that's a pretty good bet there. And if we parlay that with the over 2.5 rounds in Mays Arlovski, what does that look like?
What is the over 2.5? Minus 170, right?
Minus 170.
It looks like plus 122 around there.
I like that. Shit, that might be something I track.
Yeah.
Because I love that over, but I can't parlay it because it's only on Bet Online right now. So I don't have to wait for DraftKings to put that line out. But if I don't have to worry about that, if that does come out and it's parlayable, I think that at plus money, those are 2 really solid plays.
Yeah, as soon as these other books get them out, that still should be plus money. I don't see either line moving that drastically. And yeah, I'm with you. I would be surprised if either of those legs didn't hit.
Yeah, like if we got like an Andrei Arlovski 2nd round knockout, I'd be like, what the fuck?
That ain't happening. Come on.
If Pineda won by decision over Caceres, you'd be like, okay, it wasn't our week, but I like that. I like that parlay. Over 2.5 rounds for Arlovski Mays. Fight doesn't go to decision for Pineda Caceres, coming out to like plus 120, you said?
Yeah, around plus 120 to plus 122.
All right. I like that. Let's do that.
Let's do it. What would it surprise you more, a Andrei Arlovski finish or a Daniel Pineda decision? It's tough.
Dude, it would have to be an Arlovski finish. I mean, if he finished even Dante Almays, I'd be like, no fucking way did that just happen. I mean, what's Arlovski inside the distance? Like plus 800 or some shit?
Oh, it's got to be something crazy. Probably one of the worst inside the distance lines on the card. It looks like, plus 600.
Okay, and that's Bet Online, so it'll probably be plus 1,500 on other books.
No, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, this is an interesting card, man. I'm gonna give the same warning that I gave at the end of Stat Diggers last night, Brady.
Yes.
We
Yeah.
got 13 straight weeks of UFC coming up, you guys. This is not the highest level card. Let's be very careful. Let's wade into that pool. We're gonna wade into the shallow end first. We got UFC, we got a pay-per-view coming up next week. We got a lot more data to play with. Let's be really cognizant of our bankrolls this week.
Yep, that's a good idea. Next week we have a much better card in UFC 289 to look forward to.
Absolutely.
All right, Weezy. Well, let people know where they can find you. I believe you're going live in like 2 hours.
2 hours, just a tip with Uncle Weezy, Tuesday night, 10 o'clock Central Time. Let's go. We're going to break down all these fights from a tape study and statistics perspective. I'll give you my tracked bets if there are any. So now there are 0, thanks to the Garam Kutsudaladze fight being canceled. And then we'll finish with Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. So yeah, join me tonight at 10, and we will go over all these fights from a betting perspective and see if we can find any more spots sticking out here.
I can't wait to see who's going to shave ass this week because I don't know. I don't know.
I'll give you a hint. It's Andre Arlovski by first round knockout, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sick of getting these right. I need to get one wrong.
Yeah, if you want to get it wrong, there you go. But yeah, I'll be tuning into that. Weezy, you guys can follow me on Twitter, DFS_numbers, Instagram, DFS by the numbers. I just put out my full card breakdown prediction video as well. And I'll be going live with the guys on Pub Sports Wednesday, going live again Friday and Saturday on my channel. Best of luck for UFC Vegas 74. Don't go too crazy on this card. We'll talk to you guys soon and see you.